Hey y'all, we're here with Michael Reed today. He works with a place called Great Plains Recovery. Great Plains Recovery is a uh, support system for people coming out of alcohol and drug addiction.
We are here to help you discover or develop your passions, how you can use them, and why you exist. How can we help you help others better?
Michael,
That's correct. We are a substance use disorder treatment center located in Tulsa at about 71st and Yale. And we are the first treatment center of our kind in the entire northeastern quadrant of the state.
wow. What
Uh,
makes you guys different?
what makes us different is that we take private and commercial insurance and cash pay only. And I say that because the only place that exists like that, other than us, that I can name would be in Cushing. That's the closest place. And then, of course, the next closest place is in Oklahoma City. And they have a limited number of beds. Between the two of those facilities, we have more beds combined than them currently, anyway, available. And
Okay.
it's important to note that we are in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and that is closer to the rest of the northeastern side of the state. There is nothing east of Cushing for these services that is not state paid. State paid facilities would be places that take Sooner Care Medicaid. And there's been a huge lack for people that have commercial and private insurance. So if you go to one of those other places with insurance, you're not allowed to get treatment services there.
Okay.
So you have to go out of state a lot of the times, which is also a barrier to getting services for the individual, because that individual oftentimes doesn't necessarily want to leave out of state. I mean, they don't even want to go to treatment a lot of times, let alone go out of state.
Sure.
So being local is where I'm going with this, is the game changer for
Yeah.
us. And
Local and centrally located right there at 71st and Yale.
correct, 71st and Yale, 7210 South Yale. And we're super excited about that. I'm super excited about that because it's right there in my backyard, literally. You asked me a little bit about what my background is, what brought me to this point that drives me
Yes.
today.
Please share.
So what drives me in this arena is I personally left Oklahoma to go out of state for treatment services myself almost 3 years ago. And that was because I had private insurance. And I was given the opportunity to leave out of state and get services there that were not available here. There were some beds that could take the insurance, but there was no availability at the time, waiting
Yeah.
list.
What is you guys' typical waiting list at Great Plains
Currently, we
Recovery?
don't have a waiting list. We will be probably on a waiting list before probably mid-year, to be honest with you.
So that's mid-year of 2025.
Correct. If we keep on the current pace that we are at now, we have 74 beds total, 20 of which are designated for detox. And I want to take a side note here to note that we have a full medical detox without the hospital setting. There's 900 plus beds in the state of Oklahoma for detox services, but they're all in a hospital. And that is traumatic for some people, number one. Number two, oftentimes it's a short stay, 3 to 5 days on average. And when they're done with that stay, there's referrals to be given to maybe a residential treatment center, which would be 30 days, or IOP services. And that is not adequate oftentimes.
Right. How long does it normally take a person to basically not need those drugs or be psychologically addicted to them if their physical's over it anyway?
So after the first 3 to 5 days, depending on the substance, most people are clear of substances as far as a chemical dependency angle. So there's two differences in, there's a dichotomy that has to be put out there, and there's a difference in substance use disorder as far as chemical dependency and the addiction portion of. So addiction is a disease, as outlined by the American Medical Association many years ago, which brought on our the CARES Act and all kinds of things over the last 20 years, right? Um, so the question, how long? That is individual. And what I mean by that is individuals can experience post-acute withdrawal syndrome or symptoms that are after the acute withdrawal. The acute withdrawal usually lasts 3 to 5 days on average. Some people up to 14 days if they've been using alcohol, for example, which is the most prolific when it comes to needing some actual care. And sometimes I know people it's taken up to 14 days to get those out of their system, but then the journey begins on treatment services as far as psychological, like you asked about.
Yeah. It's amazing to me that a hospital would even take people in to get them off of the drugs as far as their body's concerned, but wouldn't have a follow-up plan for post stay. They have referrals, you said, but maybe those people don't have rooms for them. Maybe those people don't have some kind of system to fall into. And how do the referrals actually be activated? Because I know that I've been in peculiar places in my life where I couldn't necessarily function 100%. And I don't know that I would take that next step if I was somebody in that situation.
You make a very valid point, and that's where I was going with that. Yes, twofold. Number one, I'm not very clear mentally, and you want me to figure out how to get to this next spot, 3 or 5, maybe 5, 6, 7, maybe even a weekend. You want me to figure out how to do that? That creates a lot of anxiety, right? And then frustration. And so being able to house individuals through that process seamlessly is preferred. And it's been going on here there's facilities that are state paid facilities that do that, and there's other facilities as well, but there's been a huge lack in the arena in northeastern Oklahoma. Period. There has been no track for bed space for individuals, but you're requiring or you're expecting individuals within the organizations that are giving detox services to have the bandwidth and the desire to continue to hold that person's hand. And I've shared it before, giving me a resource list is one thing, but actually picking up the phone and connecting me with another human being is another.
Yes, and connecting you with those people and following up, making sure that you've taken those steps, making sure that you're staying in that path. And we all, as human beings, need support in our lives, no matter what we're doing. And especially people that are psychologically challenged at whatever they're doing in life. Emotions run wild. That's being part of the human being
100%, 100%.
So if they are not holding their hand and making sure that they're staying wherever they are with these insurance plans, it sounds like they take them in, they give them a suggestion, and they put them on the street and say, go do what you're going to do.
I think in a lot of times they'll go back to work, and that's another thing. So my focus personally in this space has become multi-pronged. I've got some certain areas that I'm working on, and that's employers, EAPs, unions, and of course, tribes. So I personally have been working with the tribal nations of Oklahoma for well over a year, even while I was in another facility out of state. That option stopped being available to Oklahomans. And as God would see fit, brought me back to Oklahoma to continue to serve my Oklahoma family, because that's one of the main driving forces was being able to affect change in the lives of people from my community. And when that stopped, I really was not sure what I was going to do, to be honest with you.
Yeah. So remind me of how you got here to this point in your life where you want to work in this field.
Okay, very good question. So when I went to treatment out of state, I learned that I had been pursuing money in my life. And what I mean by that is I had been sober before and in recovery for multiple years. And for whatever reason, I went right back to it. And then I was unable to identify what that was. Now, my health situation that I drank myself into gave me some motivation, but it was not the end-all, be-all. What gave me true motivation was to understand that I needed to find something. I needed a purpose. And it occurred to me while I was in treatment out of state that I needed to find purpose. And where I was at, that was kind of communicated to me. So I started from day one, the time I got out of treatment. I spent 4 months in treatment. I've done treatment in Oklahoma probably 16 times, to be honest with you. So fast forward, I went through all of the roles in the treatment environment there, from the detox tech to the behavioral health tech to outreach coordinator to house manager of a sober living to operations involvement, all the way up to admissions and then business development. And the people I worked with and for, I say worked with and for because actually it was more of a partnership. They didn't put constraints on me. They allowed me to do what I needed to do to learn what I needed to learn. And they were there to support me. Having had businesses in my past, that was important for me. I've never really worked for anybody ever. That's because here in Oklahoma, I had gotten in trouble with the law. I've been in trouble with the law a lot here in Oklahoma as well.
Tell us about that, if you don't mind taking a bit of a
Sure.
side street right now.
Sure.
What is your criminal history?
So my history is a whole lot of crimes associated with drinking, using, and getting more of drinking and using, such things like credit cards, unauthorized use of credit cards or bogus checks, knowing, concealing. These types of things are the ones that pepper my history to the tune of 24 times. You would think I get the message, but honestly, I'm horrible. I'm a horrible criminal. And the reason being is because I'm not really a criminal, I learned. I'm really just an alcoholic and an addict trying to get loaded and stay loaded, pretty much.
And whatever it took, you were going to do that, even if it was having problems with the judicial system.
Sure. And oftentimes, it would be a break. Just going to say, I can remember vividly one time when I got in trouble, I was glad that I got arrested because I was tired of running the streets and I didn't know what to do. I would recover well in those environments. Structure, hugely important, which brings me back to the scenario that you painted before about helping people with a warm handoff. It's a loose structure that's given to somebody when you help them in a direct way. And so that is the hope when people come to treatment in our environment. It's not perfect yet, I'll be honest with you. I look forward to growing this field in this state, in this city specifically, to mirror more accurately what is better for the client, which would be aftercare services, which involve a full continuum of care that exceeds just the 30 days, 45 days they might be in our care. So being able to provide oversight and involvement in a client's continued journey past that stage, seeing them get employment, seeing them continue to come to outpatient services. And that is my hope, So I literally don't know where that's going to go exactly.
Yeah.
I just know I have a model that I've seen exemplified because I've been immersed in it out of this state, and I know how to implement it. It's just a matter of getting through there. So we've got a lot of things to do.
Yes. So tell me about how those other people do this. We know that Great Plains Recovery is currently not doing this, but there's some sort of system that you said you saw.
So in California is where I went. I probably hadn't disclosed that before, but California is where I went. And the reason I didn't disclose it is there's a little bit of a stigma behind California treatment centers in Oklahoma. And
I think we can learn from everybody.
Rightfully so, though, I'll to be honest with you. There was a whole lot of inappropriate behavior and people marginalizing people from Oklahoma that were from California. But that is not my experience. It's a very large place.
California?
There's a lot of people there. From Oklahoma's perspective, me personally, I had no clue. When I got off the plane, I thought, wow, there's as many people in this county that I landed in as there's in my entire state.
Yes.
So I was in Orange County, not LA. LA was where the majority of the impropriety happened. I'm not saying it didn't happen in Orange County, but there was 2,300 treatment centers in Orange County alone. There's probably 6 in this state. And those treatment centers were doing full continuum of care that exceeded 30 to 45 days. As I told you, I was in care for 4 months. And that's because of the model they put in place. So there's some.
What does that look like, though,
So what it
as
looks
far
like
as
is
that post-care?
it just looks like sober living. So I got done with detox residential, um, and when I got done with detox residential, which is what we are at Great Plains, right? When I completed that portion, I was then moved from the detox residential house to a sober living environment. We call it a sober living environment because it was sober living housing that was provided for me, that was contracted directly with the treatment services. So they were responsible for getting me back and forth to my outpatient services. And that was the game changer for me because here, currently, and we're working on it, but here we do the same thing as we've always done, and that is we get done with detox residential, and we're going to make a referral to go to XYZ for your outpatient services. That means you're going to drive yourself there if you've got a car, and you're going to attend 3 hours a day, 3 days a week. Or we'll even give you maybe a virtual option, which I did that too, which I was just getting gloated while doing that. I'm just saying it gives no accountability in that. They might want me in for a UA once in a while. But there's a lot of great people, and a lot of great things happening right now in this state. And there's a lot of hope on the horizon in this area. I don't know what exactly it looks like going forward, but I do know that that model may or may not be duplicatable here in Oklahoma, but we will see. And that's what I'm here to help find out, to be honest with you.
So how can you guys, or is it possible, my mind goes to you guys partnering and transitioning people into these sober living houses? Are there not enough of them? Do they not exist?
Actually, there is a whole lot of sober living houses currently popping up on the landscape here in Oklahoma. However, the majority of them are nonprofits, and the majority of them are being, I guess they've got pretty good cooperations with the state-funded facilities. So keeping in mind there's a different line of services that splits between private commercial insurance and or state services.
Okay.
It's just different.
Why would somebody be on state insurance and others people have their own plan?
Okay, so some people work and have a job, and most of the time you're going to find people that work and have a job, they have insurance through their employer, or they have gotten a policy through the marketplace, which provides them what they need, but they have certain income requirements that they must be able to claim. If those income requirements are below that threshold, then they don't qualify for those types of plans. Or if they don't have an employer that provide them for them, they still don't qualify for those plans. Then they're going to be put into the low income bracket for senior care and or Medicaid. That's why.
Okay, so people that are currently working and have insurance and have a drug addiction or alcohol addiction, they're in a less than ideal position in the state of Oklahoma because the insurance doesn't cover that post care. So you're getting penalized for working to a certain degree?
Well, honestly, state pay does now actually provide for help with sober living up to 3 months under certain policies with the state. So there's state funded policies that do provide for that. So this is a sticky subject, by the way. So we will
not go there too much.
Not go there too much, right? There's some things that are interesting to see from the outside, taking a big step back. I mean, I have theories about this, that, or the other, but it doesn't matter. I try to stay away from those theories as much as possible and just do the next right thing in my lane.
Sure.
Because if I get distracted by what they're doing, then I'm going to lose focus.
Yes.
And my focus is to be grateful for what I'm doing
right.
and the people I'm able to help. Otherwise, there's no point in doing what I'm doing.
And the question was not intended to try to demean somebody or whatever, or a group of people. The question was intended so that I could understand, because I do have people in your seat having conversations from local and state level government.
Absolutely.
So I want to know what I don't know. So I ask questions, and I don't mean to paint anybody into a corner by any means.
Never felt that you were painting me in a corner. Absolutely. And I am absolutely one of those people trying to speak with local, state, and government officials as well. I've been given the opportunity and the levity to become involved in those arenas. I just recently was able to go to an interesting event for the Tulsa Chamber in Oklahoma City for the Capital One Capital event, which was really cool. I was introduced to quite a few people, and we're just starting to talk about it, more. In 2020, there was 900,000 plus individuals suffering from substance use disorder in the state of Oklahoma, and a fraction of those beds are available to people. You think, yeah, so
900,000 people.
That was in 2020.
In 2020, dealing with
substance use disorder. And I would like to side note, we oftentimes get sidetracked by substances, including alcohol. In fact, alcohol is the main and most destructive one of all of them.
They sell it over the counter. What are you talking about? No big deal.
It's horrible. It is there's no danger from detoxing from any other. There's no physical danger from detoxing from almost anything else other than alcohol. You can die from detoxing from alcohol. Heroin's close behind as far as it's uncomfortable, but most of the time you're not going to die. But you can literally go into convulsions, seizures, and die from alcoholic withdrawal. And that is unfortunate. But yeah, you're correct. It is legal and it's sold over the counter. And a lot of tax dollars made from it, right? I guess. I don't really know.
It's an interesting dichotomy that we live.
And very difficult, too, to get individuals to see that as a problem. I mean, myself included. It's legal. What's your problem? And then if I don't do it, I'm looked at kind of strange too, right? So I've learned to just kind of grab a soda water and limes when I'm out at mixers, and I only have to answer that question most of the time. It doesn't bother me to answer that question, but people do. Oh, you don't drink?
Yeah. I've had a lot of other life challenges and distractions or things that I've done to myself that were, and probably still do, things to myself that are somewhat harmful, if not very harmful.
Sure.
But drugs and alcohol were never my thing. Mm-hmm. And I can have a good time stone sober. Sure. I can be as silly and as fun as anybody. And but I was raised by a fellow that drank 9 to 12 beers on the way home from work. Mm-hmm. Every night. No big deal back in the day.
Sure, 100%.
He was a very functioning person, mm-hmm. Had his own successful business. Mm-hmm. So these people that are alcoholics have different lifestyles.
Sure. There's no discriminator of persons.
And a lot of people that are dealing with this around us, maybe we don't see them.
100%.
And these people, they might be hurting inside. Mm-hmm. And they have nobody to love them the way they need to be loved.
Indeed.
So
there's a lot of shame and guilt associated with coming to the terms that I may have a problem with alcohol. And it's embarrassing. I mean, especially here in Oklahoma personally, you're a man in Oklahoma, you should be able to pull yourself up by your bootstraps and suck it up, buttercup. You know what I mean? That's and if you can't do that, you sure as heck don't want to tell anybody you can't do that, because then you're just viewed as weak.
Right. Yeah. Man up.
Man up. Correct. 100%.
And there is no such thing as manning up without support.
100%. There's not. And I smile and kind of just get a little chuckle out of the alcoholics, that do get into recovery a lot of times. They don't realize the gravity of the situation. And what I mean by that is we oftentimes, as alcoholics, myself included, well, I didn't do that over there. Well, the fact of the matter is that over there is not legal, but is also not as lethal to you as what you're doing. Yes, it's harder to keep a job when you're doing that over there, because there's shame and guilt associated with just using it.
Yeah.
There's no shame and guilt associated with alcohol.
Yeah.
You can use that, and it's actually encouraged.
Oh, sure.
The first time I went
advertisements all over the television and cool stuff, being around your friends, kicking back, and let's just pop a cold one and have a cap for the day.
Yep.
Now, in limited quantities and non-addictive behaviors, not so bad.
Yeah. I mean,
when you go down that slippery slope and you slide down that slope into a deep place where you're 24 times convicted, is that what you said?
Yep, absolutely.
that's not a good place to land.
No, and
How did all that start?
so what happened
What
was,
was your first step toward this direction,
well,
that direction of your
my
life?
first step towards that direction was I went on senior skip day, and I didn't come back. I went to the lake, Keystone Lake, and got drunk. And the next thing you know, I'm getting busted for trafficking of cocaine.
Oh my
In
God.
'93.
How did that spiral?
Well, those kind of go hand in hand, alcoholics and cocaine. And all I did was introduce this guy to that guy because I wanted better cocaine. I wanted some free cocaine. Next thing you know, I get convicted of that.
But you had to start before that drastic step. Surely that wasn't the first
Prior
time
to
you ever
that, I
drank,
was
right?
just doing pretty much social stuff. You know what I mean? And then once, what really drove that was I did get probation out of that, but I ended up going to prison anyway because I got out of it to some degree. I got probation, right? But I also got the felony, which means I can no longer even wait a table. I was 19 years old. I can't wait a table any longer. I can't get a job that doesn't get me above a certain threshold, income wise, ever. That was a situation which never resolves itself in Oklahoma very easily. At least it hasn't. In fact, to this day, I still cannot lease an apartment at a leasing company because of my record, even though it's been more than 9 years since I'd have a felony conviction. Nobody cares. I can drive Uber. I passed that background check. I can get a job.
Some jobs.
Yeah, 7
Some
years. 7 years
jobs.
out. Nothing to do with security, of course. But so usually, so all that to say, you ask what continued that spiral. Well, I was a young man. I was told I'll never ever be amounting to anything other than this because of that felony conviction. You can't even wait tables and serve a beer because I didn't have any crimes associated with serving somebody beer. Why can't I serve beer? Able Commission says so. That's why. So it's just from that day on, I couldn't even vote, for crying out loud. And I'm like, okay, well, what's the point? There's where I went. I went to the point of hopelessness at that point, very young. And that's what continued to fuel my entire drinking and using. Because to be honest with you, it's not about the substances. It's just not. It's about why we use the substances. It's what drives us. That's our solution. That's my solution. My solution was to drink or use. Because it would stop this head from going round and round. And all the shame and guilt I felt, I didn't have to feel when I was loaded. I could fit in with the rest of people who weren't going anywhere because I didn't care.
Yeah.
So
that's why you did what you did. Why do you do what you do now?
Because I want others to find hope. That's why. That hope is found in life change. And that life change starts with removing substances from our lives in a destructive way and allowing others to gain an opportunity to change their life. People over the years, since I've been in this industry, you'll know somebody who's got good intentions in this industry because the first thing they say is it's going to be they'll sell the person on the dream. Your life's going to be so much better. You're going to come to California. You're going to get this great place to stay. It's going to be in California. Da, 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 da. I never have taken that tact because that's not what it's about. I always indicate to people it's an honor to help them. And it is. And it's an honor to give them the opportunity to transform their life in a way that will affect thousands of people going forward via the ripple effect. Right? If you've given somebody the opportunity to change their life, and they take hold of that opportunity, honestly, even if they fail at first, you've planted that seed.
Sure.
And that's another thing. Being kicked when you're down is not a good feeling. And historically, it's been the mentality that I have seen in my life here in Oklahoma. And I love Oklahoma. Let's just be clear. But that pick yourself up by your bootstraps mentality carries over in a lot of ways. In a shameful guilt situation. Oh, you went to this treatment thing and you failed.
Yeah, you're not measuring up.
You're not measuring. You're a loser. What I mean? Are you serious? Yeah.
So you said something earlier in the conversation about being purpose driven, and your purpose at first was to get over the psychological, emotional pain, and you did that by drinking. Now your purpose driven life is to help others realize that they don't have to be in that vicious cycle.
give them the opportunity to change. Absolutely, 100%.
And have purpose. Do you guys have some way of helping people find purpose in their life so that
Well,
they have a different purpose than to get drunk to not feel the pain?
so the treatment center itself is not the end of that. Is not really how that happens per se. We give some education and some tools to give them some understanding about themselves, but spiritual purpose is something that has to be gained through other means.
Yes.
And so we'll introduce people to different modalities for finding that spiritual purpose, if you will. At least that's my opinion. You have to have a whole transformation, body, mind, and spirit. And so we're treating the body and a little bit of the mind, but spiritually speaking, we're not at Great Plains. We're not faith-based, for example. That's another thing to be mentioned.
Okay.
But we are not excluding those options either. We're just introducing. We only have our clients for 30 to 45 days on average, right?
Sure.
You're just coming out of the fog in about
Yeah.
2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And so we'll introduce people who have never been introduced to 12-step programs of various kinds, and also to faith-based organizations of various kinds as well, so that they can better discern for themselves which way to go.
Okay.
And the first step to giving them that opportunity is to get them clear-minded and not chemically dependent.
Mm-hmm.
So we can honestly say that we can guarantee if you stay in treatment, you're going to be relieved of your chemical dependency issue, because you're not going to be chemically dependent anymore.
Yeah.
Unless you put it back in your body, then you're going to become chemically dependent again, because addiction is going to drive you to continue to use those substances. And I don't know. I use an analogy over the years, which is super simple. All of us have probably used a fast-acting nasal spray, at least most of us. Okay, on the back of that bottle, it says, and this is a picture of chemical dependency rather. So it says, don't use for longer than 3 days. The reason being is your body naturally produces antihistamines to prevent you from having congestion. Now, it's running a little low at the time. That's why you pick that bottle up and you artificially give yourself the antihistamines in that spray. But what happens is, if you use it longer than 3 days, you become dependent on it because your body says, hey, stop producing that stuff. He's putting enough of it in there already. So I would find myself, and this is interesting, but I would find myself waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning to go to Walmart to get me a bottle of that spray because I could not sleep, period, unless I had it. And that is an accurate picture of chemical dependency. Anybody can become chemically dependent. I can tie you down and put chemicals in your arm for a period of time. After 4 or 5 days, your body is going to crave it physically. Same with alcohol. You drink alcohol long enough and in enough volume, you're going to have ramifications from not drinking it.
Yeah. In your purpose-filled life or driven life, purpose-driven life is to help people get over that, and your passion about that. How do we help you help others?
Well, the way I can be helped is just simply by giving a voice to the community about the services that are available at our facilities. And just basically, honestly, just get the word out, to be honest with you, because obviously there are other options in town currently. They have plenty of availability, but they're for state-paid individuals, and thank God we have them, 100%. There's a huge need.
Okay.
But people that are insured have been so used to not having a resource here for them that they don't probably look for it at all.
Sure. Yeah. After you've been told it doesn't exist, it doesn't exist, it doesn't
Or
exist.
you're going to have to go out of state, or you have to go to Oklahoma City, or if you have to go to Cushing to get services.
Yes. It doesn't exist here is what I was trying to say.
100%.
Then it doesn't exist here, and there's no need in looking.
Yeah.
But we can help.
I mean,
people.
I traveled all the way to California, but most people don't want to travel if they're working, especially, they don't want to work. They don't want to travel away from Tulsa. I mean, even if it's Cushing, that's still far.
Yeah.
It's not that far, but it is really.
It is. And it's 2 hours or whatever it is.
Yeah. It's out in the middle of nowhere compared to here.
Right.
So just getting the word out to people. So I engage with employers, and I've been given the opportunity to go into network with a very large employer here in the Tulsa area, and and working on doing the same with others. But it's not just through employers. Obviously, if you have insurance of any kind, it's private or commercial,
Yeah.
we can pretty much work with that.
What about social media platforms? Could the people that watch this tell others about you
Absolutely.
guys?
Absolutely. We have a social media presence as well.
Yeah.
We have a Great Plains Recovery Facebook page. And of course, we have a website as well. We're pretty active, especially on our socials.
Okay. And we will certainly
Mhm.
promote you there
Awesome.
and tell our friends about you guys being right here in Tulsa at 71st and Yale.
Yeah, we've been really blessed with a few opportunities. I've been able to have people that I know send people my way, and we've been able to get some exposure on local news media outlets to spread the word as well. We'll continue to pursue those endeavors as well. And I think we're probably going to start pushing a little bit more exposure-wise in those areas. I'm just not sure how they're going to look. We have been only doing this since June of last year.
Wow. And how many people do you guys currently have in your 74 beds?
We have 54, I believe, right now.
That's reasonable occupancy.
Yeah, absolutely it is. And so we have yet to come full circle on the census yet, but that's, like I said, it would probably be by the middle of the year. I'm assuming we should probably reach full capacity and have wait lists coming up by the middle of the year. I would be surprised if we don't.
I hope the wait list isn't very long for people that need your help.
100%. Then the other, of course, but we'll just have to find more spots. We'll just have to
talking
expand,
about.
right? That's and that is on the agenda.
Okay.
Keep it-
Didn't want to put that in you guys' mouths by any means, but you guys do plan to expand when you get the 74 beds.
When we have the
occupied
opportunity, and if it's the right thing to do, of course, we don't want to diminish services by running ourselves too thin either.
Sure.
Because that's another thing here in this state, being able to staff facilities like ours is not exactly the easiest adventure, to be honest with you. And
seems like some of those people that were former clients might want to come back to work for you guys, just like you were a former client of a place somewhat similar to what y'all are doing.
Funny you should say that. I have an individual that's showing up today, as a matter of fact, who I helped get into treatment 10 months ago. I helped him get a job at our facility. So he will start working as a behavioral health tech in the next several days.
That's awesome.
So it's really cool. I've gotten the opportunity to go to court with him over the last year as well, multiple times. And he started out with no hope. Literally, he said, "I'm going to prison. They want me to go to prison." And now he's changed his tune to 10 months later. He's like, "I think I might not go to prison." I'm like, "I think you might be right." And it's so comical because even myself, I've been to some of the worst places in the world. I've had some of the most, I've had some very violent individuals in my roommate situation even, okay? But I've always approached individuals with the same, no matter what. It doesn't matter if you're the CEO of Chase Manhattan Bank, which I've absolutely gotten on the phone before, or the guy walking down the street, homeless. I deal with everybody the same way. I don't pander to anybody's position or lack. And this guy, though, hilarious. First time I saw him, I thought, this guy here is a knucklehead. Ponytail, long hair, handlebar mustache. He's only 30 something. No. This guy here, Harley riding,
Harley riding, handful of a man.
Ape hangers. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Which I'm good with art, but the ape hangers just tell it all, right?
It gives a bit of attitude.
That's correct, right? Come to find out, this guy is the sweetest dude I've ever met in my life. He's a really good kid.
Awesome.
And I would actually introduce him to my daughter. And I told him if he behaves himself, I might.
Well, I think that's a good time to stop.
Absolutely.
Thanks for coming.
Absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
All right. Tulsa Talks is the podcast that is inspiring people to have everyday meaningful conversations to gain perspective and help the world.